I'm Ethan Carter. I'm 17, and right now I'm standing in my bedroom in Bend, Oregon with my fingers shaking as I clamp the final bolt on the new lock I had 3D printed this afternoon. The hum of my 3D printer still lingers in the corner, a reminder that I've poured weeks of coding and trial and error into making this lock strong enough to keep my stepsister out. My heart thumps like the bass in a basketball stadium when the final redwood leaf emblem clicks into place. Dad's old voice memo crackles through my phone. Freedom doesn't come from where you are, Ethan, but from the boundaries you choose. Dad died when I was 10, and that message has been my North Star ever since, guiding me through every awkward roommate phase, every privacy invasion, every stolen game disc. This cabin trip was supposed to be my last stand, my rite of passage into senior year freedom. But as I tighten the bolt, I realize it's about to become the battleground of my life. Ever since Mom married Rob Blake 4 years ago, my world has felt like it's been dissolved in syrup sweet on the surface, but sticky and impossible to navigate. Maddie, my 15-year-old stepsister Madison Blake, saunters through these hallways like she owns the place. She's a TikTok influencer with 23,000 followers, a ring light permanently orthodonted to her jawline, primping and preening for her next Get Ready With Me video. She barreled into my life 2 summers ago, ruffling through my old PS2 collection like she was shopping at a yard sale. One afternoon, she live-streamed herself, chucking my dad's console over her shoulder makeup brushes and all announcing, "Bored, let's blow this thing up." 10,000 viewers laughed. I was mortified. That red-ringed glow of the camera, the click, click, click of those buttons, and the thunderous crack as Dad's PS2 hit the hardwood, it felt like someone ripping my soul from my chest and posting it for clout. Mom watched via Rob's phone, giggling, "She's just bonding, honey." Bonding. As if the hallmark definition of sisterhood included brutality. I tried talking to Mom, begging for boundaries. "She's only trying to connect," she said. "You should be more welcoming." So I built the lock. Then she watched Maddie enlist 2 of her influencer friends. They tried picking the lock. They bent my door frame trying to pry it open. When I caught them in the act, Mom scolded me for excluding Maddie. Excluding. So last weekend, I hid my redwood sapling, my little potted symbol of life and renewal, from her. The scrawny 6-inch shoot Dad and I planted last spring had bloomed tiny flowers meant for our front lawn. Instead, I holed it up in a shoebox under my bed, guarding it better than the Declaration of Independence. Maddie found it anyway. Live-streamed herself, dumping it into the toilet, asking what's green and ugly. This mope's dreams. 10,000 hearts floated across her screen. Which brings me to now. I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, the amber glow of the sunset filtering through the window spotlight style on my DIY lock. My phone buzzes with DMs, Maddie's fans demanding tattle vids, conspiracies, rumors. I'm some anti-social weirdo. I open one. He's gay. If he's hiding his stepsis, must be hiding something else. My chest tightens. I haven't even told any of my friends I like guys, my secret safe inside my hoodie, like a spare key no one finds. But here it is, splashed out in front of 1,000 strangers. Somewhere in the blur, Maddie thinks it's funny to out me for skips, to paint me as a villain for keeping my door locked. This was supposed to be my celebration cabin in the woods with Jaden and Violet and Coach Daniels, stopping by roasting marshmallows under the Milky Way. No ring lights, no comment section, just us and the crackle of a campfire. Now my next move feels like high wire without a net. I lean back against the headboard, run my hand over the tiny scar on my wrist, the one I made last summer when I tripped under her backpack on purpose and cut myself on a broken keychain. That scar, faded pink now, is my only real boundary reminder my pain registers. I didn't want to replay that moment, but Maddie's antics always do. The scar signifies 2 truths. 1, I'll protect myself at any cost. 2, I might break in the attempt. My phone pings again, a calendar invitation from Mom. Cabin weekend confirmed July 20th, 22 at Pine Hollow A-frame. Maddie included. Please RSVP. My throat goes dry. July 20th is 5 days away. 5 days to decide, do I let her into my sanctuary, my safe zone, or do I pull the plug? In the kitchen down the hall, I hear Rob banging pots dinner prep. Mom's voice over the blender. Ethan, sweetheart, tell your sister you're excited, okay? I press my ear to the door, imagining how Maddie'll grin when I say the words. Her ring light catches fireflies in those eyes. Her winning smile, her followers' emojis raining down. I can almost hear the pings, pings, pings as she mocks me for hiding behind locks for not being a team player. And I can hear Dad's voice again. Boundaries aren't walls, son. They're lifelines. I stand, knock on the door frame. Rob looks up, gives me a thumbs up. Mom raises the blender pitcher like a chalice. I shake my head. I can't, I murmur. I won't do it. Rob tilts his head. Won't do what, champ? My hands start quivering. I wonder. What if this time I don't run? What if I stand my ground? The thought tastes bitter and electric, like rubbing alcohol on a fresh scrape. But as I turn away to head back to my room, my foot hits something soft. The shoebox slides out from under my desk, the pot with the redwood sapling. One green shoot, defiant, reaching for the cracked ceiling plaster. Richmond said redwoods survive forest fires and grow stronger. I cradle it in my hands. This little tree was meant for sunlight and soil, not flushing toilets and TikTok audiences. I whisper, you'll make it, just like me. My phone flashes a new notification, live now in Pine Hollow Cabin. I click. It's Maddie's profile location tag. Rumor has it, Big Brother locked the door, but we're here to celebrate, aren't we? The video jumps. Her ring light illuminates the smoky interior of our rented cabin, the same one I booked for us this weekend. Before I hung up the lock, I pulled her name just in case she tried sneaking in, and I paid for her share. But I never invited her. She's inside. I watch as she beams, hey cabin crew, Ethan's such a spoil sport, but I'm fixing that. She winks, then she wraps the lock with her fist. My chest collapses. I didn't think she'd come early. I didn't think she'd break in before the weekend. I didn't think she'd use my own money to RSVP herself. My vision tunnels. I slide to the floor, sapling rattling beside me. It's like a punch to the gut. Someone took my sanctuary, used my safeguards against me, and turned my celebration into a spectacle. My phone rings. It's Violet. Are you seeing this? Her voice cracks. She's inside. She's already broadcasting. Do something. Do something. I want to. I want to storm out there, rip the ring light off her face, and smash her phone. But I freeze, the redwood sapling clutched to my chest, the lock glowing in the lamplight, my bedroom door sealed. In that moment, I realize this isn't just a cabin trip gone wrong. This is ground zero. The first shot in a war over my right to breathe, to exist without being a meme. The boundary I drew is breached. The home I built is violated. All because I dared to protect what's mine. My jaw tightens. I stand, set the sapling on my desk. I scroll through TikTok comments, thousands cheering Maddie on, calling me toxic drama king hiding from the world. But one comment stops me. He's brave. He's standing up. He needs more people on his side. It's from Jaden, my hacker best friend, a maverick with a heart of gold. He's already pinged me the cabin's security log. He says he'll get me the footage. He says he's on it. I take a shaky breath. Feel Dad's voice in my ear. Boundaries, Ethan. I pocket my phone. Make one decision I'm not canceling. Not yet. It's time to fight back on my terms. I snatch my hoodie, the black one with the QR code linking to my evidence drive, and slip it on. As I pull the hood over my head, the room goes dim. The final beam of sunset flickers out, leaving me alone in the glow of my desk lamp. I step toward the door, my knuckles white around the doorknob. My heart hammers, risk versus reward, spotlight versus exile, fight versus surrender. I twist the knob. The lock holds. Relief and rage surge together. I turn it anyway. The latch snaps open, my boundary broken. I push the door wide and step into the hallway, every nerve screaming. The house is quiet, except for distant chatter. Mom and Rob probably don't even know she's inside. I press myself flat against the wall, inch toward the stairs, my hood hiding me in shadow. My phone vibrates, a text from Ms. Rivera. Ethan, meet me at office. Urgent. The school counselor, she's on my side. She threatened to enforce the anti-bullying code if Maddie kept up the harassment. She must have seen the TikTok. Maybe she can help. I glance back at my room where the sapling waits. That tiny tree has survived worse than a storm. It survived when I left it without water for 2 days. I owe it to the sapling and to myself to stand tall. I step down the stairs, the wooden steps creaking beneath me. The first floor stretches before me like an arena, and at its center is Pine Hollow Cabin's foyer, where Maddie's recording her followers flooding in, comments, her giggles bouncing off the walls. I pause at the bottom step and whisper, "Not today, Maddie. Not this time." And with that, I push forward into the breach. Next up, I reach the foyer and face her directly, but just as I'm about to speak, the fire alarm blares, a shrill, unbidden invasion that flashes red across the cabin's A-frame windows. The ring light flickers. The live stream stutters, and for a second, everything goes silent. In that pregnant pause, I realize this is bigger than us. It's a war over voice, over respect, over who gets to be heard. My heart pounds as the camera pans to me, capturing every ounce of fear and fury. And then I see it, the wire leading from the alarm to a hidden panel. Someone rigged it. This cabin, my fortress, just became a trap. I inhale, steady myself, and take a step forward. Cliffhanger. The ring light illuminates Maddie's triumphant smirk. "Ethan, you ready for the real party?" she asks. I swallow. Behind her, I glimpse Coach Daniels pinned against a wall, mouth taped. Jaden's phone lies cracked on the floor. The live stream is still rolling. I'm out of options. The cabin door slams shut downstairs. I'm trapped. And that's when my phone buzzes again. Emergency broadcast from Mom. FBI is on their way. I barely have a moment to register the blazing red strobes of the fire alarm painting everything in hellish flashes before I'm hurtling down the narrow hallway, my hoodie's QR code brushing my thigh like a secret badge of defiance. My chest feels like it's been shoved into a vice, every breath a reminder that I'm dancing on a razor's edge. The cabin's A-frame ceiling looms overhead as I skid around the corner, adrenaline crackling like static. Coach Daniels is slumped against the wall, his whistle clipped to his shirt collar, mouth taped shut in crude duct tape. His eyes lock onto mine, fear, relief, a silent plea for help. My heart twists. I yank the tape from his mouth and he gasps, "Ethan, but that's as far as he gets before the alarm's wail drowns him out. I glance over my shoulder. Maddie stands in the foyer, her ring light perched on a tripod like a malignant halo, the live stream chat exploding with emojis and taunts. Her smile is that same trophy-winning grin, but it's edged with something colder, tonight, sharper. Behind her, Jaden's phone lies cracked on the floor screen, splintered like a spider web. He's crouched 2 feet away, his hoodie soaked through with sweat. I sprint to Jaden, yank him to his feet, and hiss, "What the hell happened?" He presses a trembling finger to his temple. They rigged the alarm. Pulled Jay and Coach into that side room, taped them up, then called it in as a test. It's all on the drive. My stomach drops. This isn't just bullying. It's premeditated. A calculated siege on my sanctuary. I reel back, press the redwood sapling's pot into Jaden's arms. "Hold this," I tell him, voice raw. The tiny green shoot quivers in his hands, fragile but unbroken, exactly what I need to remember something living can outlast fire. I pivot, muscles coiled, and march toward Maddie. The ring light clicks on, illuminating her smug face. "Look who's here," she purrs into the camera. Big brother wants to play. My pulse spikes. I swallow the urge to shout, to lunge, to smash the damn light. Instead, I reach into my pocket, palm brushing the smooth metal of the USB stick that holds every proof of her harassment. Turn it off, I say, voice low. Right now. Her eyes flick to the live viewer count 32,000 and climbing. She laughs. You want me to kill my engagement? My brand. She flicks a switch. The hall goes dark, the streaming cuts. Silence crashes over us like a wave. Without the glare of her halo, the cabin feels smaller, more suffocating. Maddie steps forward, and I feel the weight of her confidence, the smug arrogance that has haunted my days and invaded my nights. You really think you can boss me around? She challenges, chin lifted. My hoodie's code pulses faintly in the darkness, my own private spotlight. I inch closer, every muscle screaming. Then Coach Daniels clears his throat, staggering over. Ethan, check the breaker box outside. Fuse might be tripped. We can get the alarm off. He gestures to a door partially concealed behind a rack of skis. I lock eyes with Jaden, who nods fiercely and tucks the sapling under his arm. I got your back, he murmurs, voice firm. Maddie's lips twist. Go on, little hacker. Play hero. I swallow the insult's sting and pivot toward the hidden door. The dark hum of the forest presses in through the windows. Crickets and distant owl calls add an eerie soundtrack. I slip through Jaden at my heels, the air thick with smoke and tension. I find the breaker panel by touch, flick the main switch off and on. The alarm's shrill cry cuts out. Relief floods me, a tidal wave against the tightening knot in my gut. I flip the switch back to restore power, knowing every second counts before Maddie reactivates her live stream. We slip back inside. Maddie's nowhere to be seen, but her ring light stands sentinel in the center of the foyer, wires snaking like tentacles. Coach leans against the wall, rubbing the tape burn on his neck. She's upstairs, he whispers. In your room. My blood turns to ice. She broke into my last refuge, my den of calculations and memories. I swallow hard. Feel Dad's tinny voice memo replay. Boundaries aren't walls, son. They're lifelines. So this is my lifeline moment. I can stand down and cut my losses, or I can reclaim my domain. I charge up the stairs 2 at a time, each creak like a gunshot. At the top, the hallway is dark except for the glow spilling from my open bedroom door. I round the corner, Maddie's silhouette framed against the pale lamplight, her phone recording upside-down footage of my scattered sketches, my robotics prototypes, the shattered remnants of Dad's old hockey stick leaning by the closet. She's rifling through my things, pulling out the PS2 controller I'd kept hidden since her first assault. Looks like you still care, she taunts, holding it aloft. This thing probably gets more visits from your Tinder matches than I do. She tosses it at me. I catch it instinctively. I take a breath, shove my anger down like boiling oil. You think this is funny? I say, voice steady but low. Do you even see what you're doing? Her grin falters just for a second, and in that flash, I see a flicker of doubt. You've got to understand, she says, voice cracking, my followers, my future, they matter. You wouldn't get it. I step closer, heart thunderous. No, I wouldn't, I admit. Because fame isn't my oxygen. Privacy is. Peace is. You smashed my PS2 for clout. You flushed my sapling. You outed me when you wanted hits. My hands tremble as I hold up the controller. But this is my life, not your stage. Maddie's face shifts, confusion, warping her features, hurt, betrayal, anger, all tangled together. She slumps, phone slipping from her grasp. The live stream dies. The ring light clicks off, leaving us in shadow. For a heartbeat, it's just the two of us, siblings divided by more than blood, a chasm carved by ego and desperation. Then she blurts, I thought you'd understand loyalty. Her voice cracks. We're family. The word hangs heavy, as weighty as the broken pieces of Dad's hockey stick. I pinch the bridge of my nose. Family isn't just about sharing a last name, it's about respect, trust. My voice softens. You crossed a line. Suddenly, there's a bang at the front door, 3 sharp knocks. Ms. Rivera's voice rings out. "Ethan, open up. This is authority." My heart lurches. Outside, I can hear Rob's footsteps. He's on his way back from checking the driveway, Mom's frantic voice echoing behind him. "Ethan, please." I glance at Maddie. Her eyes are wide, vulnerable for the first time. The symbols I wield, lock, sapling, hoodie, QR, feel heavy in my hands. I realize the next move will define everything, whether I hold my ground with compassion or whether I wall her out entirely. My phone buzzes with a text from Laura. "They called the cops. Maddie's acting traumatized. We need you to open the door." Torn between my principles and maternal pleading, I take a breath and press my palm against the cool wood of my door. The sapling on the desk behind me trembles in its pot, its tiny leaves quivering like a silent plea. Outside, footsteps pause. I meet Maddie's gaze, see the storm of guilt and fear in her eyes. "Do we let them in?" she whispers. The hallway beyond the door is dark, but behind it lies our family, our fractured unit. I swallow the weight of choice pressing against my chest. My voice is barely audible. "Let's figure it out ourselves first." I step back, reach for the sapling, and hold it between us like a fragile truce. Maddie nods, tears glinting in her eyes. I press my finger to the QR code on my hoodie, ready to share the evidence if she agrees to help undo the damage. My hand hovers over the doorknob. I inhale the scent of pine and ozone, the forest air creeping in through the cracked window, and make my decision. Cliffhanger. With the potted redwood sapling cradled between us, I twist the knob and swing the door open, revealing my mother's anxious face, framed by the slanted dash of emergency lights. But behind her stands not just Rob and Ms. Rivera, but a uniformed deputy with his notepad eyes trained on me. Silence crashes in. I glance at Maddie, then at the deputy, and my heart sinks as I realize I've invited everyone into my boundary, and now there's no hiding the fallout. I cracked the door open, and a flood of white light and anxious faces rushed in Mom's tear-streaked cheeks, Rob's square jaw clenched tight, Ms. Rivera's arms crossed like she was bracing for battle, and behind them a deputy in uniform whose boots clicked on the hardwood floor with unsettling precision. My heart thumped so loudly I was sure he could hear it all the way up here. I held the redwood sapling protectively against my chest, its tiny leaves trembling in my grip like a pair of tiny hands begging for peace. "Ethan Carter," the deputy called, voice flat and official. I swallowed, my throat clicking dry. "Yes, sir." He stepped forward, eyes flicking from me to Maddie at my side, her face pale, mascara smudged, looking nothing like the confident influencer she'd been 10 minutes ago. The deputy cleared his throat. "We received a call about a disturbance, a possible hostage situation. Coach Daniels and Jaden Ortiz were reported restrained, and an alarm was rigged to trap people inside. Can you tell me what happened?" I glanced at Coach sprawling against the wall, his shirt torn where the duct tape had burned him, and at Jaden supporting his elbow like he'd just run a marathon. I realized for the first time that this was bigger than sibling drama. This was potential criminal conduct, and if I didn't handle it right, I'd lose everything. I took a deep breath, feeling the sapling's brittle stem press into my ribs. "I'm not 100% sure who rigged the alarm," I began, voice shaking but louder than I felt. We came back to the cabin after Mom confirmed the dates. Inside, we found Coach and Jaden taped up, and the alarm was going off. I flipped the breaker panel outside to silence it. Then I found Maddie in my room rifling through my things. I paused to let that sink in. The deputy's lips tightened. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. "You think Maddie did this?" he asked. I spared one glance at Maddie. Her eyes darted to the floor. "It looked like it," I said. "She's upset I locked her out. She's targeted me for weeks, destroying my PS2, flushing my sapling, live streaming false rumors." It felt like an escalation. The deputy looked at Maddie. "Son, is that true?" he asked, voice softening. She shook her head before I could object. "No," she whispered. I didn't tape them up. I just hit record. The room went so quiet I could hear my own pulse racing. Mom stepped forward. She found them like that Laura Carter said. She called 911 thinking it was a prank gone wrong. The deputy raised an eyebrow. Called 911 from the cabin. Mom swallowed. She thought it was part of Ethan's birthday surprise, like a fake escape room game. She panicked and called for help. I felt the weight of her words collapse around me. Mom was defending her daughter again, twisting our reality into something easier to swallow. I glanced at Ms. Rivera. She nodded at me, silent encouragement to stick to the facts. My shoulders lifted a fraction. I steadied myself. We need to look at the footage, I said. My hoodie, there's a QR code that links to the evidence drive. It has timestamps of the alarm being tampered with and logs showing Maddie's account hijacking the cabin's security system. The deputy's eyes narrowed. Can I see it? I squared my shoulders. Sure, but I want it clear that I'm not deleting anything. Every byte stays intact. Mom exhaled sharply. Ethan, maybe we can handle this privately. I cut her off. No, I said, and heard my voice echo in the foyer. This has gone too far. I unlocked my phone, tapped the hoodie's QR code against the screen, and projected the files onto the deputy's tablet security logs. Time-stamped clips of Maddie's live stream triggering the door sensors, her DMs plotting the fake hostage call. The deputy scrolled, face unreadable. This is pretty damning, he muttered. I felt a surge of relief. Justice at last tasted sweet and metallic in my mouth. But then the deputy tapped a folder labeled Hidden Footage and hesitated. This footage, he said, timestamps from last night, show someone else entering the breaker box, not Maddie. Look at the angle. My pulse hit 0 as I watched grainy infrared video of a shadowy figure, someone with long hair, tied back slender frame, undoing the main switch without gloves. The screen froze on the silhouette pressing the button. That doesn't look like Maddie, Ms. Rivera said, leaning in. My mind whirled. Maddie's hair had been braided that morning. This silhouette's ponytail was higher, thinner. Maddie wasn't this light. I glanced at her, her shoulders hunched, eyes wide like she'd just realized she was a pawn. Rob's jaw slackened. Who is that? He demanded. The deputy scrolled more. This footage was flagged by the system as possibly coming from someone with remote access. He looked up at us. I think there's a third party involved. My heart pounded as I processed that revelation. I'd been so focused on Maddie that I'd missed the possibility of another saboteur. Who could it be, Jaden? No, he was with me every second. Coach, he'd been taped up. Mom and Rob. They'd been downstairs. Ms. Rivera. She's not tech-savvy enough to hack the alarm. That left only one other person who knew our cabin layout and had access: Frank Hughes, the owner of Pine Hollow Cabin, the ex-soldier who'd warned me about spoilers and bears. My chest tightened. Frank had shown up unannounced 2 nights ago under the pretext of checking smoke detectors. He'd been eerily interested in our locks, our electronics. The deputy handed me back the tablet. Interview him, he said. He might know more. My hand shook. I looked at Maddie. For the first time, she looked truly terrified, tears pooling in her eyes. Are you okay? I asked, voice soft. She nodded, whispering, I thought I was the worst person here. I crouched to meet her gaze. You weren't perfect, but you didn't do this. She leaned into me, and for a moment I thought we might actually bridge the gulf between us. Then Rob barked, Ethan, thank God. He gripped my shoulder, and I realized this entire ordeal had forged something unexpected: solidarity. Even Mom's fierce eyes glistened with the worry of a parent who's realized her children are in genuine danger. I stood, lifted the sapling up, and whispered, We've got to find Frank. The deputy nodded. I'll bring him in. He strode out, notifying dispatch. Mom grabbed my arm. Be careful, she said. She knelt beside Maddie, brushing her hair back. The two of them looked like strangers trying to decipher each other, and for a moment I wondered if this mess might finally force Mom to see us as individuals, first stepsisters, second. Ms. Rivera tapped her clipboard thoughtfully. "Ethan," she said, voice low, "your evidence was crucial. But right now we need to secure the scene. Everyone evacuate to the driveway. We'll reconstruct what happened." I glanced at the hallway leading to my room, the door now wide open, light spilling out like a beacon. Inside my sketches and projects waited symbols of who I am, mine and mine alone. I realized that in exposing the sabotage, I was reclaiming my identity, my boundaries stronger than ever. But if Frank had tampered with the wiring, what was his motive? Maybe he wanted to scare us off the property. Maybe he had a vendetta. The forest beyond the windows felt ominous, like it was watching. I gathered my courage and stepped into the hallway, twisted the doorknob shut behind me, and turned to face the foyer. As we filed out, I caught Maddie's eye. She gulped, then nodded as if steeling herself for what came next. We moved down the stairs together, the sapling cradled between us, its leaves golden in the morning sun that had crept in unnoticed. At the bottom, Frank stood under the porch light, arms folded, watching us approach. His face was unreadable stern. The deputy intercepted him. Frank lifted one eyebrow and said, "I thought you'd never ask." The deputy motioned him forward, and as Frank took a step toward me, I felt my resolve harden. This was no longer just about a birthday trip or privacy or even step-siblings. It was about the right to safety and truth. Cliffhanger. Frank reached out a hand not to shake mine, but to brush a folded note from his pocket. He unfolded it, unfolded the words we'd all feared, "Next time boundaries won't save you." He let the note fall to the floor at my feet, and my heart stuttered as I recognized the handwriting Ms. Rivera's. I step back as Frank's folded note flutters to the floor at my feet, the crisp paper cutting a straight line through the dusty dawn light. "Next time boundaries won't save you," it reads in looping script that chills me because I recognize it Ms. Rivera's handwriting. My chest tightens, the redwood sapling in my arms feeling heavier than ever, its tiny leaves drooping as if exhausted by the betrayal. I glance up at Ms. Rivera, arms folded, expression unreadable, and realize the person I thought was my ally might be the one pulling strings behind the scenes. The world tilts beneath me, but I force my knees to hold. "No," I whisper, voice catching. Frank's dark eyes narrow as he steps forward. "Looks like I'm not the only one monitoring your boundaries," he says softly. Jaden moves closer, hand on the sapling, giving it a gentle squeeze. Maddie hovers behind us, eyes flicking between Ms. Rivera and me, confusion and fear battling on her face. Mom gasps and covers her mouth. Rob's face goes ash white. The deputy clears his throat, stepping between us and the adults. "We need statements," he says, pulling out his notepad. "But first, I want you all to stand back and let me secure the scene." He motions us toward the steps. As we descend the porch, I stare at Ms. Rivera. "Why, I demand. Why set me up?" She doesn't answer, only lowers her gaze and steps aside. The deputy clears the cabin foyer with yellow tape, "Do not cross." Inside, the broken ring light lies on its side, wires splayed like entrails. Scorch marks litter the door frame where the alarm was tampered with. Photographs flash in my mind. Maddie's live stream, the security logs, the notes warning. I realize my sanctuary has been invaded, not just by family drama, but by someone in authority who's supposed to protect me. Rob crouches beside the threshold, picks up the note, and hands it to the deputy. "She's your counselor," he says to Ms. Rivera. "My son trusted you." She flinches. The deputy examines the note, then tucks it into evidence bag. "I'll want you to come down to the station," he says to her. "We need to verify your involvement." Ms. Rivera nods, face pale, and turns away. My heart pulses with relief, tinged by sorrow. Someone who cared for me believed in betraying me. I grip the sapling tighter, feeling its roots press into the dirt of its plastic pot. The promise of new growth overshadowed by someone trying to strangle it. I look to Jaden. He's already pulled out his phone, face determined. I'm pulling every log from every IoT device Frank touched, he mutters. We'll find proof who rigged that alarm. His confidence is contagious, and I lift my chin. Okay, I say. Let's go. We head back inside, stepping over the cabin's threshold. Mom reaches for me, voice trembling. Ethan, honey, are you all right? I force a nod. I will be, I say, though the betrayal stings. Maddie sidles up, voice quiet. I'm sorry. I never set the alarm. I glance at her, and for the first time since all this began, I believe her. Her eyes are red-rimmed, genuine contrition shining through the influencer facade. I place a hand on her shoulder. Just stay close, I whisper. We make our way to the foyer where the deputy is dusting for prints and tagging evidence. Frank watches us from the corner, arms crossed as though he's supervising. The cabin feels smaller, full of secrets in every creak of the floorboards. I take a deep breath, my mind racing. We needed to clear Maddie's name and unmask Ms. Rivera's motives, but now we also have to figure out who hired Frank or if he acted alone. The redwood sapling is my talisman of truth. I place it on the coffee table in the center of the room where the TV used to be, its slender trunk casting a long shadow across the planked floor. Our next move is clear, I say to Jaden and Maddie. We need to get back into the security system and pull every recording, and we need to find out why Ms. Rivera wanted to ruin this for me. Jaden nods, already tapping at his phone. Maddie swallows hard and says, I can get my manager to hold off any PR spin. I'll leak what I know. Her words tremble, but hold steel beneath. This moment, my stepsister making herself vulnerable on my behalf, that's more powerful than any live stream. I feel a swell of pride in her. Good, I reply, voice low. And I'll talk to Rob and Mom. We need to lock down our home network and secure our personal logs. No more backdoors. Rob tenses, but Mom nods relief, flickering across her face. Whatever you need, Ethan, she says softly. I'm so sorry I didn't see it. I study her for a beat. Her guilt is real, but her promise feels thin. Still, I accept it for now. Thanks, I murmur. I turn back to the sapling, its leaves reaching toward a broken skylight. The broken glass above scatters morning light in shards across its leaves, as though sunbeams themselves are fractured, waiting to be mended. The sapling becomes a symbol of both vulnerability and resilience. If it can survive this trauma, so can we. Downstairs, Coach Daniels has been freed and is giving his statement, nodding at the deputy's questions. His whistle is gone, taped over. He glances up at me and gives a thumbs up, and I nod back. It's a simple gesture, but it bolsters me. Outside, the air smells of pine and damp dirt, a reminder that nature forgives and renews if we give it the chance. I look at Maddie, Jaden, and Mom, my makeshift family, battered but unbroken. We rebuild, I say, just like this sapling. I gesture at it. A faint breeze drifts through the open front door, rustling its leaves. For a moment, everything is still. Then my phone buzzes a notification from the cabin's security app. My heart stops as I see a new live feed inside my room. The thumbnail shows my desk strewn with drawings of drone designs, blueprints of robotics, and a small figurine of Phoenix 2, my drone project. The video is real-time, someone's in my room right now. I fling open the door of the cabin's A-frame bedroom and sprint up the stairs 2 at a time, the sapling left on the coffee table like a silent witness. I burst into the room to find the drone's controller missing from its stand, my sketches shredded on the floor. The window is ajar, curtains fluttering in the breeze as if waving goodbye. My heart pounds. Whoever did this knows exactly how to strike at my core, destroy my drone, demolish my dreams. I snatch up the camera's timestamp. It's just seconds old. I grab Jaden's arm and say, "We're not just rebuilding boundaries. We're fortifying them." He raises his brow. How I stare out the window at the wilderness beyond, where trees stand tall and unshakable. We launch Phoenix 2 tonight, I say, voice steady. We find whoever's behind this. We end this. and we reclaim our sanctuary once and for all. I catch Mom's eye in the hallway. Her face is drawn, determined. Maddie steps beside me, and Jaden grips his phone like a talisman. We're ready. Cliffhanger. As we gather our gear in the fading light, my phone buzzes one more time. A message flashes on screen. Enjoy the show. It's from an unknown number. And outside the cabin window, I swear I see a shadow moving through the trees, watching us. I rally my makeshift strike team in the cabin's living room, the redwood sapling standing guard on the coffee table, its leaves now steady instead of trembling. Jaden's fingers fly over his phone as he routes our drone's live feed link through a secure channel. Maddie sits cross-legged on the floor, whitening and blotting at her mascara, but her eyes burn with resolve. Mom hovers in the doorway, arms folded, torn between pride and fear. I take a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over me like a cloak. This is my plan, my risk, my war. Phoenix 2 is armed with IR and low-light cameras. I explain, my voice calm despite the adrenaline surging in my veins. We launch from the ridge behind the cabin, survey the perimeter. Whoever's stalking us won't see it coming. I glance at the window. The Oregon night is alive with a chorus of crickets and the distant whoosh of wind through pines. But to me, it sounds like the hush before a storm. We gear up. Jaden straps his phone to the drone's controller, ensuring the live stream link feeds straight into his logs. Maddie secures her ring light for backup illumination if we need to draw something out of the shadows. Mom pockets her work tablet to record our findings for evidence. I clasp my hands together and feel the small scar on my wrist tingle, a reminder I earned my boundaries at a cost. I slip on the black hoodie, the QR code glinting like a sigil of truth, and tap it against my chest. Let's do this, I murmur. We slip outside the door, clicking shut behind us, and I lead the way up the narrow footpath, flashlight held low. Each step crunches pine needles underfoot, punctuating the silence with our heartbeat chorus. At the ridge, the world falls away beneath us. The cabin's lights glow like moths trapped in glass, and beyond, moonlight ripples over the dark forest sea. I set Phoenix 2 on a flat rock and open its arms. Its silent rotors unfurl with a soft whir. Jaden hits takeoff, and the drone lifts into the night, a stealthy phoenix reborn, its IR lens glowing faint red. We crowd around his phone, watching the grainy live feed, the cabin roof, the tree line, then movement. Something shifting just off the trail, crouched low. I lean closer. It's a figure in dark clothing, tool belt hanging loose. Pause, I hiss. Jaden freezes the frame. The figure glances up, and the drone camera catches the glint of silver goggles, Frank's distinctive aviators. My heart skips. Frank's here, I breathe. He's scouting us again. Maddie's gasp echoes in my earpiece. He lied, she says. He was never checking smoke alarms, he was casing the place. My mind spins. The man I mistook for a helpful neighbor is actually the saboteur's muscle. But then Jaden's voice cuts in, breathless. Wait, there's someone else. He zooms the image to a second silhouette slipping through the brush. Taller, leaner, definitely not Frank. The figure pauses, turns toward the drone, and waves, or so it looks, almost tauntingly. Then they slip behind a stand of furs. My chest tightens. This is no lone gunman operation. This is a conspiracy. I feel the sapling's pot pulse beneath my grip, as though the little tree itself is warning me this cuts deeper than we thought. I tap the controller. Phoenix, follow him. The drone arcs south, infrared cutting through branches, tracing footprints like a heat signature. We follow the trail downhill, the feed showing the stranger's footsteps leading toward an old fire watchtower on the property's edge. My pulse leaps. The tower was locked when we arrived. But if someone's up there, they could have rigged the alarm, tampered with the breaker box, even planted evidence to frame someone else. I swallow. We need to get closer, I say. Maddie hesitates. If we move too soon, we'll spook them. I nod. I know. We retrace our steps, descending the ridge to the cabin's rear, a narrow service door we overlooked. Rob had propped it open earlier. I slip inside, heart hammering, and motion everyone to follow. The hallway is dark lit only by the moonlight seeping through the windows. I press a finger to my lips, and we move as shadows. I slide the service door closed behind us and pad across the mud-splattered floor, Jaden's flashlight flicking ahead. My hoodie code pulses faintly against my chest. They sold that tech at Mom's Company Expo last spring. I wonder, is corporate espionage at play? Was Maddie's sponsor pulling strings? The thought pricks me with betrayal. But right now, the priority is the tower. We slip around the back deck, following the drone's ping on Jaden's phone. The tower looms like a sentinel, its metal door rusted padlock dangling open. "I'll go first," I whisper. I step inside and find a ladder climbing into darkness. I glance back. Mom holds the sapling protectively. Maddie's lip trembles, but she nods. Jaden positions himself at the base flashlight, trained upwards. I ascend each rung, groaning under my weight. At the top, I push a heavy trapdoor open and feel the night air rush in. I shine the light around. Empty, minus a small folding chair, a hastily set up laptop, and scattered papers stamped with the logo of Mom's marketing firm. My chest tightens to discover correspondence between Maddie's sponsor and Pine Hollow Cabin's owner plans to host a branded retreat for influencers. The project fell through last month, and this sabotage was revenge, a scorched earth attempt to destroy any chance of redemption for the brand and silence Maddie. The papers are drenched in coffee stains, one marked Taylor & Sons Outdoor Gear, confidential. In the corner, a screen shows Phoenix 2's feed, the IR view now feeding backwards to an anonymous viewer. My blood runs cold. "They're watching us," I murmur. Jaden's voice crackles in my ear. "Someone's logging our live stream." Look at the back of the console. I pivot and see a USB drive plugged into the laptop, its casing smudged with dirt. I freeze. If I unplug it, they'll know we've found them. If I leave it, we'll remain ghosts. Risk versus reward. I yank the drive out, palm stinging as it pulls free, and pocket it. "Got it," I whisper. Below me, muffled voices call from the clearing. "Frank, the deputy." A second shout, "No!" Mom's voice, worried and urgent. I glance at Maddie. She's pressing her hand to the trapdoor. I know I have seconds before they discover what we've done. I climb down, drive clutched against my heart like a lifeline. As we emerge into the moonlit clearing, I see Frank's silhouette against the cabin's deck, phone to his ear, face unreadable. Next to him, Ms. Rivera steps into the light, her lips moving in silent apology or command. It's impossible to tell. Maddie gasps and grabs my arm. The deputy emerges as well, flashlight beam scanning our faces. "What have you found?" he demands. I press the drive into his hand. Everything I say, voice steady. The sponsor's plot, the sabotage, the false flag. It's all here. He inserts the drive into his pocket, nods once, and looks up at us with a grim expression. We're hauling everyone in, now. Relief floods me, finally justice, but it's tempered by the knowledge that our secrets are in the open, our vulnerabilities exposed. I look at the sapling, its leaves trembling in the breeze, and think boundaries didn't just protect me, they revealed the rot beneath the surface. Maddie steps beside me, wiping her cheeks. She lifts her chin, resolve flickering back. "Let's finish this," she says. I nod. The deputy motions us toward the cabin. "Everyone inside," he says. We file in, trapping Frank and Ms. Rivera in the foyer, their faces taut. The drone, still alive in the sky, circles overhead, a silent observer. I feel its hum in my chest, a reminder that we're never truly alone, never safe, only vigilant. Yet inwardly, I feel a surge of power. I harnessed technology, community, and my own moral compass to unmask deception. I turned boundaries into beacons. As they begin questioning Frank and Ms. Rivera, I step back with Jaden and Maddie. The sapling glows in the porch light, resilience incarnate. I lean on the doorframe, listening to the deputy's questions, and realize this isn't the end. There are lawyers, PR, fallout, healing to do. But for the first time in weeks, I feel unbreakable. The air crackles with possibility, and though the night is fraught with uncertainty, I know I've found my voice. I glance up at the drone's red IR glow above the cabin, imagining it soaring beyond these trees, beyond this conflict, into freer skies. Cliffhanger. As the deputy leads Frank and Ms. Rivera away in cuffs, my phone buzzes with an urgent text from an unknown number. Nice play, Carter. But did you really think you had control? I tap my hoodie's QR code reflexively, and for the first time, it doesn't link to my evidence drive. Instead, an ominous image appears on my screen. A map of Bend, Oregon with several red pins, our homes, our school, the cabin illuminated like targets. My heart stops as I realize the game has just begun. I stare at the glowing map on my phone, red pins pulsing over Bend, Oregon, my home, my school, the cabin, all marked like bullseyes. My hoodie's QR code feels suddenly cold against my palm, as if even my symbol of truth has betrayed me. I close my eyes, take a breath, and let Dad's voice memo ripple through my mind. Boundaries aren't walls, son. They're lifelines. This is my lifeline, breaking every boundary I built, exposed by someone who wants to watch me fall. But I refuse to break. I pocket the phone, feeling the curvature of the device imprint against my leg, and turn to Jaden and Maddie, their faces drawn tight with worry in the cabin's foyer where fluorescent lights buzz overhead. The deputy has already hauled Frank and Ms. Rivera outside, their silhouettes flanked by patrol cars flashing reds and blues. But I know the real threat hasn't been cuffed yet. It's whoever coded that map, whoever orchestrated this from the shadows. I catch Maddie's eye. We never talked about why you stayed, I say softly. She hesitates, then nods, stepping closer. I realized, she says, voice shaking, that if I ran, they'd fill my platform with lies. But if I stood by you, maybe we could flip it, use the spotlight for good. Her words hammer in my head, platform for good. That's the core of the clash, this generation's reliance on social currency, the belief that 1,000 likes can affirm your worth, even as it devours your privacy. I squeeze her shoulder. You've already changed the game tonight? Jaden's phone buzzes again, another ping from the map app. We slip outside into the chill night where the air smells of pine resin and cigarette smoke from a deputy leaning against his cruiser. I hold up my phone. The map's pins haven't moved, but the app's legend flashes next target in 12 hours. It's a timer, someone is planning more. My heart thunders. 12 hours until what? Another hack. Swatting, maybe like that news story last month about the gamer's home was raided. I look at the blanket of pines shivering under the moonlight and feel the weight of isolation this forest gave me shelter. But it can't shield me from a digital bullet. I twist the phone in my hand and make a decision. We go on offense, I say. Jaden's eyebrows shoot up. Offense. Dude, we just survived sabotage, corporate espionage, false arrests. I know I cut in voice steal. But if we wait for them, we lose. We need to find who built this map and stop them before the timer hits 0. Maddie steps forward, ring light clipped to her belt like a prison tag. My manager can trace the app's API calls she offers. We might ping the server back to an IP. I nod. And once we have an IP, we can route it through Phoenix 2's airborne cascades. We'll find the physical location. Jaden grins despite the gravity. I like it. Drone Strike Digital Edition. I allow a wry smile, but my chest tightens. Striking back always carries risk, especially when the rules of engagement are undefined. We hustle to the porch, the sapling from the coffee table now lodged in Maddie's backpack, its leaves peeking out like a promise of new growth. I feel its weight on her shoulder and think this little tree has outlasted every threat we threw at it. Acid drains, airborne chemicals, neglect, and it still stands. I draw strength from that resilience. In the driveway floodlights, Deputy Morales kneels by his cruiser, running fingerprint kits over Frank's cuffed hands. He looks up at me. Carter, he says, tone respectful. Now we'll need you at the station tomorrow morning. But if you're planning a counterstrike, do it by the book. I meet his gaze. Yes, sir. The unspoken is heavy. I'll add digital warfare to the book. But first things first. Finding the hacker in time. Back inside, I set up my laptop on the coffee table where the sapling used to sit. Jaden plugs in his portable hard drive, and Maddie props her ring light behind us, turning the living room into a makeshift command center glowing with blue light. I open the Map app's developer console and start monitoring API requests. Lines of code scroll past endpoints, payloads, geolocation headers. I hand Maddie her tablet. Trace the last ping, I say. She leans in, tapping frantically. It's bounced through 3 proxies, but the origin server is in Portland. She squints. No, wait, virtual IPv6 could be anywhere on the West Coast. My stomach knots. That broad a scope means we need more precision. I tap the Phoenix 2 control panel on my laptop. Launch an IR scan of the Portland data center cluster downtown. We'll catch the signal source and the heat signature. Jaden's eyebrow arcs. You sure that's ambitious? I exhale. Risky, but our time window's closing. He nods his fingers, dancing over the controller. Outside, the drone's rotors spool up in the night, a soft hiss against the symphony of crickets. We crowd around the balcony door, eyes trained on Jaden's phone as the live feed appears, the geometric grid of the city's block lights. Then the stark silhouette of data center buildings, their rooftop HVAC systems glowing white-hot in IR. A pulse of energy ripples through one building, flickers out, then flares again like a heartbeat in the urban mass. There, Maddie says. Block 42, rooftop unit 5. I punch it into my laptop's geotagger. The software triangulates with the Map app data coordinates lock. My pulse roars. We've got them. I step back, adrenaline flooding. We go to ground, I say. Mom, Rob, you two should head home. They're calling this overnight operation. They'll need your statements at the station. Mom crosses her arms but nods. Rob ruffles my hair. Be safe, champ. I smile, bitten by guilt, sending my family into the night when I'm the one who's unleashed this fight. Maddie grabs the sapling, her fingers brushing its leaves tenderly. I'll take care of her. I nod. Thank you. Then to Jaden, book us an Uber to downtown. We need to be on that rooftop in less than 4 hours, traffic-ticketed parking city cops. He smirks. Already done. An hour later, we slip into the back seat of a black SUV, city lights winking alive as we speed south. I watch the sapling's shadow flicker between Maddie's legs, its thin trunk bent like a bowstring pulling taut. My mind races. Once we get to the data center, we'll confront whoever is driving this digital manhunt. Hackers, corporate saboteurs, anonymous predators. They'll see our faces, hear our voices. If it goes wrong, we could face arrest for trespassing or vigilantism. But if we don't act, more families get targeted. More boundaries get shredded by malicious watchers. The social contract, our right to privacy, hangs in the balance. Maddie nudges me, voice soft. You okay? I meet her eyes in the rearview mirror, fierce, loyal, fractured. Let's finish this, I say. She nods, and we share a moment of solemn pact. The SUV merges into the downtown glow skyscrapers, stabbing the sky. I close my eyes, feeling every heartbeat as a reminder of my father's lesson: freedom comes from the boundaries you choose, and sometimes you fight to protect them. A text dings on my locked phone. We know you're coming. Let's see how far you'll go. I open it, no sender ID, just the message. My chest tightens. The driver takes the exit ramp. In the rearview mirror, I catch the sapling's defiant silhouette, its leaves reaching for the fading light. And as the city's pulse hums around us, I realize this won't end on a rooftop. It'll end when we reclaim control over our own stories or risk losing them forever. Story 2. I'm Camille Hayes. I'm 33. I drove 8 hours from Maine to Rutland, Vermont. I arrived on Granddad Edward's 79th birthday. I expected candles. I expected laughter. I expected someone at the door. Instead, I found his wheelchair alone in the foyer. It faced the bay window, its leather cracked and tired. It looked abandoned. I stepped inside. The air smelled of lemon polish and old wood. Dust danced in the late afternoon sun. On the kitchen table sat a chocolate cake. Blue frosting dripped at the edges. The corner had collapsed into crumbs. A few fresh carnations lay beside it. I wrapped them in my red wool shawl. He loved carnations more than any other flower. A note was taped to the fridge. Neat, impatient handwriting, Ed. We took $25,000. Trusts settled. Won't be long. Love, M and L. M and L, my Aunt Margot and Uncle Leo. I pressed my palm to the cold metal. Every dime from Granddad's joint account was gone. I lugged my suitcase to the living room. On the console, party hats still sat in wrappers. A lone balloon drooped from Scotch tape. It swayed when I walked by. Granddad, I called. My voice echoed. Silence answered. Then a groan behind me. He wheeled into the room. His shoulders stooped. His hands trembled. His pale blue eyes flicked toward mine. Camille, he whispered, as if naming a miracle. I knelt beside him. My shawl wasn't enough to chase away the chill in this old house. I draped it over his knees. Who wrote this? I pointed to the note. Margot said she handled our taxes, he said with a sigh. Leo took care of the wiring. I shut my mouth. Uncle Leo, the lawyer. Outside, a chill wind rattled the window panes. Maple leaves scuttled across cracked pavement. Autumn in Vermont was cold, clear, unforgiving. I rose and paced the room. Everything here felt suspended like a paused scene. I discovered the dusty radio on the den shelf, its dial marked in decades of static. I hesitated, then turned the knob. A slow saxophone jazz slid through. He smiled and pointed to the volume. Better, he said. The music filled the quiet, but my blood roared. This wasn't neglect, this was erasure. I walked to the hallway, tracing the wallpaper pattern I'd memorized as a child. Framed photos showed my mother in her 20s. Vacations at Lake Willoughby. Birthdays I barely remembered. I found his bedroom. The door stood ajar. Inside, a lamp cast a warm glow. A wooden dresser bore a few items: a jar of menthol rub, his reading glasses, an old watch. I opened the top drawer. Amid worn socks lay a battered shoebox, its corners smoothed by countless openings. I sank onto the bed and lifted the lid. Photographs, first black and white snapshots of me as a child, Christmas mornings, the first day of school, a crooked happy birthday card with my name misspelled. Beneath those, a silver locket. I opened it gently. On one side, a faded picture of my mother as a girl. The other side empty. My heart clenched. I closed the locket and slipped it into my pocket. At the bottom of the box, under a folded wool mitten, I discovered an ivory envelope. My name printed in his careful hand, co-ownership draft, August 2022. I pried it open. Inside, an unfinished document, his name, my name, the house's address. No signatures, no notary seal. Hope and fear warred in my chest. He must have shown them, must have tried. Maybe that's why I was left out. I sank back. This was his safety net. A silent testament that he wanted me here. They had tried to keep me away, but here I was. I pressed the back of my hand to my forehead. My mind raced. There was so much to do, but I couldn't start tonight. I returned to the kitchen and pulled out my phone. I opened the banking app. Seconds later, my stomach dropped. 0. The balance read $. Every dollar had vanished. My jaw went slack. I dropped into the kitchen chair. Frost bit my ankles through my tights. I closed my eyes. They thought they'd hidden everything. They thought I'd never return. I rose and paced again, remembering our call in July. I'll be there in October, I promised. My mother had sighed. Traffic's bad then. She sounded relieved. I hung up feeling foolish. Back in Florida, I managed his medical bills. I tracked receipts, scheduled appointments, researched dementia care. None of that mattered now. All our work was wiped out. I sank beside Granddad in the den. He slept wrapped in his favorite blanket. I tucked the draft into my purse and slid the locket under my blouse. 2 pieces of his heart. I wouldn't let them erase him again. My phone buzzed. A text from Jules, my childhood friend turned elder advocacy director. I saw your post. Call me when you can. I stared at it. She always knew when something was wrong. Silence settled. The jazz crackled softly. I whispered to the empty room. Not this time. I'm not leaving. Granddad stirred and opened his eyes. Thanks, kiddo, he said with a trembling smile. I kissed his forehead. I didn't know what tomorrow held, but I knew one thing: they'd underestimated me, and I'd fight for him with everything I had. I woke before sunrise, the sky pale like old paper. A single beam of light cut across the hardwood floor and landed at my toes. I pressed my palm to the window glass. The maple tree out front glittered with dew and whispered warnings. I was hungry, tired, and more alive than I'd been in months. Today I told myself I claim what belonged to us. I grabbed my purse where I'd hidden Granddad's draft and the silver locket. I shoved on a coat, slipped past the creaking screen door, and locked up. My rented sedan purred to life. My heart drummed. What if someone had beaten me here? The bank loomed like a temple, its pillars polished by wealth and power. I stepped inside, locket warm against my chest. I told the receptionist I was Edward Hayes's granddaughter here to access his safe deposit box. She tapped her screen without looking up. I'm sorry, no record since June. I laughed, disbelief catching in my throat. No record of my grandfather or of the co-ownership agreement? She offered a plastic sympathy smile. Mrs. Martin requested the box be closed. Aunt Margot, of course. The world tilted. Pages in my mind scattered. Sweat beaded at my spine. If the bank erased his name, they erased me too. The walls murmured secrets I wasn't ready to hear. I drove back in a daze. The late morning sun carved golden bars across the windshield. In the den, I booted my laptop. My files were gone, shifted to some online vault. A password prompt blinked. Whoever locked these documents had a key I didn't. Betrayal tasted metallic in my mouth. I sank into the old recliner, its leather cool against my legs. I stared at the painting of a lone anchor on stormy seas that hung above the fireplace, a symbol of steady hope in rough waters. I reached inside my coat, retrieved the locket, and pressed it against my temple. I whispered an apology to Granddad, then typed unlock and the locket's date, his birthday. The screen flickered. A folder appeared, my proof. But before I could click open, a pop-up declared, unauthorized access detected. Someone else was watching. I called Jules. Within the hour, she stood on my porch, raincoat, dripping wild hair plastered to her cheeks. She'd arranged for a locksmith, no questions asked, and brought her legal pad. Together, we pried loose the painting and found the safe's cold steel door. I held the locket like a skeleton key against its lock. It clicked open with a hiss. Inside lay yellowed pages stacked with crisp originals, the notarized co-ownership agreement, Granddad's power of attorney, and a handwritten letter. My hands shook so hard I could barely lift the edges. Then the back door slammed. Leo's sedan idled below the porch. I sprang up, clutching the documents. He must have tracked my digital trail. I pressed myself against the wall, heart hammering as his key turned in the lock. I left the lake house as the sky barely glowed, the gravel crunching under my tires like brittle promises. My heart pounded with a fierce mix of dread and resolve as I drove straight to the Rutland County Courthouse, that granite fortress where Uncle Leo had once tried to pass off forged signatures as truth. Fumbling in my coat pocket, I felt the reassuring weight of Granddad's leather folder. Inside the notarized co-ownership draft, his power of attorney, the truth audio file that named me executor. Each breath felt jagged, but inside me, something ignited, a fierce ember of purpose that flickered brighter on every mile. I wasn't about to let them erase my inheritance or my grandfather's legacy. The courthouse's marble pillars rose before me like silent witnesses to every scam, every manipulated line of ink. My reflection stared back from the polished brass doors, a grin taut with nerves and defiance. I stepped forward, determination locked in every muscle, but my gut whispered there was a trap waiting inside. The clerk at the records desk barely looked up when I slid the folder across the counter. "I need to register these under Edward Hayes's estate," I said, voice steady. She tapped at her keyboard, eyes flicking over her screen. "I'm sorry, nothing under Hayes in the last year," she murmured, sliding the screen away as though hiding a secret. My pulse spiked. "It's under Hayes because that's his name," I insisted, pointing to the crisp, notarized pages. She clicked her pen, expression polite yet final. "You need your uncle's signature, Mr. Leo Martin's, to file anything." I tasted bitterness. Around us, varnished wood and velvet ropes whispered of privilege. Leo would waltz through these doors with a smile and a signed slip. But I wasn't Leo. I was Camille, the granddaughter who'd never wavered. My fingers tightened around my phone, ready to play Granddad's voice declaring me executor. She held up a hand. No audio, no signature, no filing. I swallowed, desperation tasting ash. This wasn't just paperwork. It was power who gets to write the story. I needed more than paper. And then, when I stepped out onto the courthouse steps, a brisk wind slapped my cheeks, reminding me that justice isn't handed over gently. I glanced at the statue of Lady Justice, blindfolded scales tilted, her metal robes dulled by time. She promised fairness, but I'd learned the law bent for those with money and connections. I needed a witness who couldn't be bribed. My mind raced back to Judge Ramirez, who'd listened to me last fall despite my stutter. I dialed his chambers, every ring echoing in my chest. "Judge, it's Camille Hayes. Do you recall me?" My voice cracked. A pause, then a gentle reply. "Meet me in the hearing room." Relief surged alongside adrenaline. I raced inside the low-domed hall, wooden benches cold under my palms. With Judge Ramirez at my side, I'd have a fighting chance. Yet rounding the corner, I collided with someone. My dossier exploded across the floor. Bank statements, voice transcripts, co-ownership drafts scuttled away like wounded birds. My heart lurched. Could I retrieve everything before Leo or Margot appeared? I dropped to my knees, spine rigid with purpose, snatching up each page as fast as I could. Every taped email and bank record felt like a confession in my fingers. Footsteps thudded behind me, Margot's polished heels. My throat tightened. I knelt beneath a bench, bruising my palms on cold wood when a hand covered mine. I looked up to see Judge Ramirez's expression grave. "You're doing the right thing," he murmured, guiding me to grab the final sheet, Granddad's power of attorney. Relief washed over me like thawing ice. As I straightened, dozens of eyes fell on me, courthouse staff, early petitioners, even the secretary peering over her desk. In that hush, I realized I was no longer the timid granddaughter. I was a force shaped by betrayal and bound by love. A lone white feather drifted down the aisle, perhaps from a dove someone forgot to release, landing at my feet like a silent benediction. Margot's voice rang out behind me, demanding order. I clasped the folder to my chest, breath steady, and stepped toward the hearing room, knowing nothing would ever be the same.